Hi boys and girls. I know you watched a video already from North Point on proportions, but these were the notes that we would be taking in class. And so I know some of you don't like just to read notes, so I thought maybe you would like a little narrative on proportions and me clarifying what a proportion is. So here's the definition. A proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. Solving a proportion is similar to finding equivalent ratios or solving equations. One thing I also want you to remember is that equivalent ratios are the same as equivalent fractions. Okay, so you'll be finding a scale factor or a factor that what you can multiply by the top, you would also multiply by the bottom. Now, when you set up a proportion with, remember, it's setting it up as an equation, so an equation has an equal sign, okay? You're going to set it up as a table. So you want to make sure your label number 1 is at the top and label 2 is at the bottom, and you want to compare those. This helps keep your ratios stating them in the correct order. Okay, one of these boxes will be X though, and remember, you're always solving for X. So there are 3 strategies to solve for a proportion. Now the first strategy is the first one, which is the easiest one, if it is available for you to be able to solve it that way. It's finding a scale factor, either what you are multiplying or dividing by. So I have 2 to 5 equals x to 10. So I'm going to set it up like a fraction, okay? So I have 2 over 5, or 2 to 5, which is, remember, equivalent fraction is an equivalent ratio, equals x over 10. So I'm looking at the relationship between 5 and 10. Can I multiply or divide anything by 5 to get to 10? And I can, and that would be my scale factor times 2. Now remember, like equivalent fractions, whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top, or whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So 2 times 2 would be 4. So therefore, it would be x equals 4. So your ratio, equivalent ratios, or your proportion would be 2 to 5 equals 4 to 10. Okay, the second strategy would be solving for x using equations. Now you can either do an equation, it would be 2 over 5 equals x over 10. Remember, you're trying to isolate the variable. Okay, so you would have to, this is x over 10, this would be division. So you would have to use the inverse operation, 10 over 1. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, okay? And then that leaves you with x. You can simplify, and then that would leave you 10 to 1. So, and 2 to 1, which would be 2 times 2 equals 4. This is one of the more difficult ways where you would be dividing. If this way the scale factor doesn't work, I highly recommend the cross multiplication, okay? So this is what they showed in the North Point video. So you just cross multiply starting from left to right. You want to try to have the x on the left hand side. Okay, so what 5 times x would be 5x, 2 times 10 would be 20. Now you're going to solve it like a multiplication equation, okay, because we have to get x by itself, we have to isolate the variable. So we're going to divide by 5 on both sides, which gives you x equals 4. Okay, so I just wanted to explain these notes to you. I hope this helps, and I'll do a couple of other videos when I start explaining the part to part and part to total. Thanks, boys and girls.